This is so epic. Who loves enterprise software? Yay. Um, this is the enterprise software of all time. Full disclosure, I got this. I took like a subset of a list of products that another piece of software called Tines supports with its like low code, no code automation stuff. In hindsight, I probably should have also put Tines in this list, but I yeah. Anyway, some of these may not look like enterprise software, but I think it's funny to include them anyway. All right, so here's the software. Have a read. There are many softwares and vendors. Um, let's get started. Actually, so me too. I am very hyped. Our first vendor is 1Password. So if you don't know what 1Password is, it is a password manager, which you should be using because password managers are good. We don't have passkeys for everything. We're gonna have password managers. So what we're gonna do is we are going to put 1Password in A tier. Why have I put it in A tier, you may ask? I have put it in A tier because it's a pretty solid password manager. I do in fact use this password manager. They have an enterprise offering which works. Um, but it's not open source, and from memory you can't really like host it yourself. I may be wrong, but yeah. Has good features, the sharing is nice. Uh yeah, on password. Okay, abnormal. What is abnormal? Abnormal is an email security vendor. So, what does that mean? It means they sit between, well, okay. Other products are meant to sit between other mail servers and your mail servers. Abnormal uses an API, I think. Is that proprietary knowledge? I don't think it's proprietary knowledge. Uh, in any case, it scans your emails and is like, "Ooh, this looks sus," and then it deletes the email. Now the problem is, right? The problem is they were one of the first companies to get big on that AI bandwagon, and so they do not do the best job, and I don't like that. And yeah, I'm not an AI fan generally. Which is why I'm gonna put them in C tier. It mostly works. It has a dashboard. You can kind of see what it's doing, but it's AI. Okay, abuse IPDB. I I think this was on the Tines list because they can integrate with and search abuse IPDB, which I think is pretty funny. That they're not a vendor per se. It's like crowdsourced IP threat intel basically. You can look up an IP, you see basically the who is of that IP, what ASN is a part of, uh has anyone seen it doing dodgy things? A lot of IPs will come up for, ooh, it does scanning activity. And it's like, I mean, maybe, but it's just a bit of a sanity check. If something comes up as 100% in abuse IPDB, then it's probably bad. So I will put it in A tier because it is actually pretty useful. All right, Akamai. Akamai provides like CDN services and whatnot. What is a CDN? I don't know why you'd be watching this if you don't know what a CDN is. Um, they certainly exist. I don't really have that strong an opinion on Akamai beyond, I guess, the fact that they sometimes just get blocked by threat intel lists because it's a CDN. And that can be annoying because legitimate things use Akamai. Um, yeah, cool. Um, I will put them in B tier. Again, I don't really have a strong opinion, and that's why I don't have a strong opinion. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Okay, Ansible. Ansible is, uh, I mean, Okta S tier. Uh, you'll see later where Okta will end up. Ansible though is an automation orchestration type thing for like Linux hosts, servers, whatever. Um, I don't have that much exposure to it. It seems fine. Um, I want to deploy it on my home network, but I have like 10 billion other things I want to deploy. So A for Ansible. That's what I will do. A for Ansible. Who doesn't love the letter A? AnyRun. Okay, so AnyRun is like a web sandbox type thing. You can dump malware into AnyRun and it will tell you what is the malware. Is it good, bad? Is it malware? Uh, and generally you will find out what it is. Um, the malware that gets ingested and tested in AnyRun is generally available publicly, which is pretty helpful if you're trying to like find a particular exe and the hash hasn't turned anything up in total, for example. Um, I don't have any qualms with AnyRun. It's literally fine. It's not amazing. It's not bad. Uh, there we go. I'll put it above Akamai. There we go. All right. Now, I have split these next two up very deliberately because the Tines list actually split them all up into the individual AWS services that it supports. So I then took AWS as one thing and Lambdas as a separate thing because I really like Lambdas. It's way easier to just spin up a serverless applet thing with Python than to, build a whole everything. And so like I specifically like lambdas. What could I say? I'm a they them that codes in Python and uses fast API via a lambda. Um I've built things with lambdas before. Very pleasant experience. The only downside is because it is serverless, you can't just throw more compute at it. If you don't make your individual bits efficient enough, it will just time out, and there is a limit to how long a lambda can take to process its stuff. Um, that said, I will put it at the top of A tier, bordering on S tier, because I do really like lambdas. Um, I have not used the equivalents from Google or Microsoft, because they do have like Google Cloud Run and Azure runners or whatever they're called. Those exist. I have not used them very much. I don't touch GCP on principle. But that's spoilers for later in this list. Anyway, AWS as a whole, though. AWS as a whole is a problem. I don't like the dependence on a cloud service, especially not Amazon's. The IP ranges end up being they have not as good reputation, understandably so. The product is kind of expensive. unlike my funky little lambdas. EC2s are kind of expensive. Um, they have their own kind of way of doing things with NLPs and how they pass traffic around. And I don't want to, if I know about networking and like server architecture stuff, I do not want to, I don't want to learn AWS beyond lambdas, which is why I am putting them above abnormal in C tier. Bug crowd. Okay, bug crowd I have a lot of thoughts on as well. So bug crowd is a bug bounty program facilitator, essentially. You can let people participate in your bug bounty program, but also like do other bug bounties. So it's kind of like incentivizing security researchers to do their thing. So Bugcrowd is a useful product, to put it lightly. Um, Now, Bugcrowd, however, I do have one issue with Bugcrowd, and that is they are a little bit. How do I put this? They don't seem to have an internal knowledge base. If it's a big enough issue and it's not individual to a specific customer, then they will update their internal list, their internal knowledge repository, whatever you want to call it, and their policies and stuff will be better. But if you have specific knowledge for your own organization, then Bugcrowd kind of seems to forget every time you tell them. Ask me how I know. And so there's issues around that. The other big issue that I think is quite prevalent with Bugcrowd is that they sometimes just don't have knowledge about particular things. So, for example, they might not be expert. They might not have the expertise in cryptography, which not an endorsement of this particular cryptography researcher, but Soatok, whatever the hell the dude's name is, he had a big issue with Bugcrowd in the past where, they kind of rejected his reports that were legitimate reports about weak cryptography that were vulnerabilities, but they didn't have the capacity to actually, you know, handle those reports. Um, so yeah, they do get some bonus points because I ran into their VP of product, uh, I think worldwide. I don't know. He might have been just Oceania at a conference last year, and I kind of roasted the usability of their product, and they were like, "Oh, thank you for the thank you for the feedback," and gave me a pair of sunglasses that I still use to this day, which is pretty epic. Um, so they will go in uh A for all right. That works. Okay, Cisco. So Cisco does a lot of things. Um, and uh, they do networking gear primarily, but they also own other things like this funky little thing down here, and they make other things like WebX, which we'll talk about that later. In any case, Cisco as a company will focus maybe on the networking gear that they make first, and then we'll deal with the other stuff as we get to it. So, in terms of Cisco as a company that makes products, I don't really have beef with Cisco networking gear, to be quite honest. It works for what you need it to do. It does have its own way of doing things, as to Palo Alto things, as do Microtic, as do many things. Like, that's fine. They the downside with Cisco is that they want a lot of money for what they do. So I gotta keep that in mind when I put them in the tier list, right? So with that context, their products are fine. Um, I do appreciate that, unlike some prosumer things, Unify, Ubiquity, they let you just hop in SSH and configure stuff. They're very flexible, all that. So that's always a plus. Um, but for enterprise gear, you would hope that they do that. So considering the cost versus what they do, they're gonna go above AWS in C tier. C for Cisco. All right, Cloudflare or Cloudflare, if you so desire to refer to them as that. Um, I'm not that familiar with the enterprise offering. Uh, their sales guy that I talked to at a conference was nice. Actually, like, eager to hear about how myself and a colleague were using Cloudflare services in our home labs, which, hey, that's pretty epic. Appreciate the salespeople actually, being nerds. They're not just salespeople. Um, they do cost a lot, which you got to keep in mind when we are ranking where Cloudflare goes. We we do need to keep that in mind. Now, Cloudflare provides a lot of things. So I probably should have split out Cloudflare to the different products they do, because if I did, Cloudflare's workers would rank pretty highly, as well as Cloudflare pages, because I do like me some serverless. It is pretty fun to just coordinate things without actually having to fully set stuff up. Like, you might notice if you look at perhaps where the website that is linked in my YouTube About Me is hosted, it is a Cloudflare Pages site, because I do quite like that feature. But their WAF offering, I have not heard amazing things about it. It can block things, but it's stupidly expensive. That's fun. Um, and they are very defensive of their IPs. So if you start doing things that are less savory, they might, tell you to BYOIP and provide your own. And IPs are kind of pricey unless you're a big corporate. So, all that said, where does Cloudflare fit in? Cloudflare starts with C. And I like some of their products, but I don't like other things about Cloudflare. So let's put them above Cisco, because there are many Cisco products I do not like. Um, I didn't even mention TLS termination. Okay, okay. Tangent. People keep pissing themselves over Cloudflare doing TLS termination. So Cloudflare, get this, has to inspect the traffic if it's going to work as a WAF. That should be enough of an explanation for people to not piss themselves over, TLS termination at a WAF, but here we are. So the idea is that traffic was going to come to your network anyway. Now, if you're serving something like, I don't know, like you're serving static content or video content of some kind, whatever, right? You probably don't want to have excess traffic. So Cloudflare in between is probably pretty cool and will not be a massive security hole for you, in that they terminate your TLS on their servers. Now, where it gets bad is, let's say your login page is behind Cloudflare's WAF. Now, the problem there is that, well, you're capturing all of the passwords, or you can, if you so desire, if you're Cloudflare. And you get cool blog posts about that, actually. It is pretty cool that they can be like, ooh, these are the most used passwords in a year. And that was a pretty fun read when I did read that one blog post from Cloudflare. But also, like, should they be doing that? Is that morally justified? I don't know. I feel like maybe it might be. It may be justified, but yeah. So they go in C tier. Now, I just remembered one other fun thing. So Linus of Linus Tech Tips did a video with a pretty high up developer at Cloudflare, and that dude's security practices made me so disappointed. And I yeah, I don't, if I had made this tier list 2 weeks ago before I saw that video, then Cloudflare probably would have been in B tier. But the fact that that you terminate TLS at Cloudflare before it hits your backend server, not a fan of that, actually. So, in the context of their security culture, or what it seems to be if one of their, high up developers does the things they do. Okay. Confluence. So there are, I believe, three Atlassian products in this list. First one is Confluence. Confluence is a kind of knowledge repository type software. You have your Confluence pages, you can integrate them with your other Atlassian products, with your ticketing and Jira. Uh, I mean, it's fine. The permissions are a bit of a pain to manage for accessing Confluence pages. Um, and it doesn't enforce, actually having a good structure. It just lets you do whatever, right? And yeah, that can be a blessing and a curse. So I've seen many a Confluence page that are pretty bad. Overall, though, as a platform, you can self-host it. You can have it be a SaaS product. That's what more can you ask for? Who doesn't love the option to self-host something rather than exclusively having it be SaaS? So for that, I'm putting Confluence in A tier. CrowdStrike. So this one is a juicy one. I have many thoughts on CrowdStrike. Um, my first thought is, oh my god, why would you have such poor practices that result in that thing that happened last year that many people might be aware of? Um, People might be aware of what an EDR is now after CrowdStrike had a clown strike moment. Uh, oh my god, they the software is fine? Question mark. I don't know. Do I feel justified in saying CrowdStrike is fine? Yeah, I think I'll say that CrowdStrike as a piece of software is fine. It has some idiosyncrasies. It does, you know, it doesn't fully work sometimes, as anyone who has used CrowdStrike might know. Um, but they bought Humio. They have a pretty nice and fast search as a result of buying Humio. But oh my god, they make you pay a lot of money for every single individual feature that CrowdStrike offers. You want EDR? Okay, you get just EDR. You want to actually store logs from that EDR? Okay, that'll cost you extra. By default, you get 7 days with the base license, but you'll have to pay a lot more. You want this random feature that does patch management? Oh, you'll have to pay for that as well. You want this feature that does this other thing? Oh, you have to pay for that as well. Now, this is public knowledge, so I feel comfortable saying this, but yeah, CrowdStrike really, really wants your money and splits out their product into like 5 bajillion different individual licenses that you need if you want your product to have a full feature set. If you want your deployment to have a full feature set, rather. Um, Now the thing that I mentioned earlier, the big thing that happened last year. Now, I, for one, am really annoyed actually about the fact that they did that. Um, why they did that? I don't know. Um, well, no, I do know that lacks internal DevOps uh system with not enough checks and balances. They really needed to do what any sane company does and have at least 1 second set of eyes on a particular thing and then test it in a testing environment and then dog food it so that you see the issues before you push them onto customers, or for example, millions of customers, and take down multiple companies for a weekend because that's awesome. And now people have a distrust of CrowdStrike. And as an extension, they have a distrust of any company's cybersecurity team that uses CrowdStrike, which is awesome. Actually, I love that. It makes my job so much easier when I'm doing a stakeholder engagement of any kind, where they'll just blame us. They always blame us because CrowdStrike gave them ammunition to do so. So this bit of a rant may come as no the ranking will come as no surprise when you see the rank that I am going to give it. It's not evil. It does kind of do what it needs to do, but also like no. F for fail, bro. Like you made me have a harder job, and stakeholder engagement is already hard. Okay? So to have it be even harder, it's not good. I don't like it. Downvote, actually. Okay, sidearm. This is a bit of a deep cut unless you are actually in cyber defense and response type stuff. The whole DFIR category of things. So sidearm is a case management platform, and it's kind of nice that Tines integrates with it because case management is fucking annoying. So, um, yeah, sidearm. Sidearm is for security case management. Yay. I will say the one nice thing about sidearm is that it does force you into keeping good notes of an investigation, but you don't want to be doing that every time. And sidearm is clunky enough that I don't want to be using it every time. Even if it does force you into doing the right thing, into having nice notes. It's just so clunky. I it makes me sad. Um and they have features that they're like, oh, we have AI too for summarization. It's like, well, what's stopping me from just copying like my case notes and dumping them in like a GPT of some variety? Why would I pay you for that? Silly. So we're going to put sidearm in B tier. The product, like, I have annoyances, but it's not enough to pull it down to the level of, say, a Cisco or an Abnormal. Okay, Azure DevOps. So there are three different Gits, version control type things in this list. Um, I have used all of them actually, and you'll see which one I like the most. But DevOps is more than just a version control system. It does some like of the automation stuff. It ties in with the other Azure things. It's pretty nice having it all be integrated in one kind of thing. Like that's a benefit of all three of the ones that are in this list, to be quite honest. They're not just simple Git, they're everything that you need for DevOps. But GitHub and GitLab can't integrate into, Azure as neatly as DevOps would, right? It's literally an Azure product. It has an alright UI if you like Microsoft's web services. Like it's fine. It's decently fast at doing what it does. Um, it's literally fine. The only downside obviously would be the cost, because it is a Microsoft product after all. Um, and for that reason, it is going at the top of B tier. Like, it's fine. I like it, but oh god, it's XE. So XE. Alright. So Discord is in this list because my understanding is some customer of Tyne's must use Discord as their own internal enterprise like instant messaging platform, such that Tynes would list this in their supported platforms. And I think that's really funny. Now, Discord has plenty of issues. It is clunky. Not as clunky as some of the other vendors and software in this list. It is a piece of crap Electron app, and they had a perfectly serviceable native app on Android, and they replaced it with, you guessed it, React Native crap. So, why they did that, I don't know. And why at least one company out there that uses Tynes uses Discord as their internal chat platform. I just, like, if it's not Discord themselves, I want to know who it is, right? I need to know who is using Discord over literally anything else that is more secure and more like actually genuinely enterprise focused. All that said, D for Discord, because I don't think I'd have anything else in D tier otherwise. All right, Elasticsearch. This may be my bias coming through in the other theme searchy product type things that I have used, and being used to those, I don't like Elasticsearch, actually. It retains the annoying, oh, you want to tweak this search a little bit? You have to rerun the entire search that that Splunk has. It isn't the fastest at doing that, which, like, if you have a lot of data, nothing's gonna be fast. Maybe the Humio seam that is now part of CrowdStrike, it will be fast at doing it, but still, it's not that fast in my experience with not that much data, and the search syntax annoys me. It is an affront to me, in particular, as someone that has used Splunk and CrowdStrike and a couple other things. I don't like Elasticsearch. I should have included an E tier for Elasticsearch, but that would be too funny. So Elasticsearch. It gets bonus points for being part of the Elk stack. Who doesn't love the Elk stack? Um, I don't have Linux and Kibana on here though. I have not deployed the Elk stack personally. Um, but yes, Elasticsearch. Where will I put Elasticsearch? The search syntax is not my favorite. It's not the fastest. C tier. I don't really have any strong quarrels with it though. Okay, Feedly. Feedly, I'm not sure how you would integrate Tines with Feedly, unless you're literally ingesting feeds from Feedly and spitting them out somewhere else. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. Um, but as the name might explain, Feedly is a feed SaaS vendor. They let you make feeds. They do some AI stuff. It's not the worst. Summarizing text is something that, you know, can be done decently well by a properly deployed LLM or other machine learning model. And yeah, like Feedly does just fine in my experience. Like it's literally fine. Um, I don't have any major quarrels with it. Uh, I don't think it's that expensive. And yeah, like the summarization of lots of different feeds, it works fine as like a first pass before you have actual analysts do analysis on what you're ingesting through your threat intel gathering. So like, who doesn't love that? Um, Top of B tier. I feel like I can't in good conscience put it in A tier if I don't actually really like it, and I do like it more than DevOps. So there we go. Figma. So Figma is something that you do to balls. Wait, no. Anyway, I was trying to think of Ligma. That's what I was thinking of. Yes. Okay. Figma is a product of all time. Uh, it's kind of annoying to use. I have used it. Uh, I do like UI UX design and planning. It's a pretty important thing that a lot of companies don't do. But ultimately, Figma is just it's a little bit clunky in how you do things. It's a little bit annoying to add extra custom things, and I don't think corporates are really using Figma. Well, they probably are. I don't use it. I have used it, but I don't use it currently. But I don't do development work that requires actual UI design. So like, uh, Figma, detail, Freshdesk. Freshdesk reminds me of bad interactions with companies, but also it's literally not that bad. Um, from the back end, I don't I don't have that strong an opinion on Freshdesk, but given that it reminds me of bad experiences with companies where I've opened a ticket, I'm gonna put it in D tier with Discord because desk D that's how it works. All right, next one, Google Suite or G Suite. They don't call it that anymore. That's not what they call it. They call it Google Workspace. I'm not a fan of calling it Google Workspace. I think G Suite just makes more sense. It's just simple, really. It's G Suite. I don't want to say Google every time. It's the G Suite. Um, but yes, the G Suite. Uh, I'm not a fan of being so married to Google. It's not that expensive per user realistically. Um, which is great if you're trying to manage like thousands of users. Um, like M365. But anyway, um, G Suite has some okay logging. It's pretty alright when you're trying to grab emails and stuff to investigate who did what. Um, it has logging for like Drive and Docs and Sheets and all that. But I I'd have major beef with the Google admin console because of how damn slow it is. It always adds time to what I'm trying to do. Just because it needs to, I don't know, load whatever it's trying to load. I don't understand. I don't like it. It makes me annoyed. Um, so G Suite. Where will I put it? Uh, it feels like a solid C tier. Like not at the bottom, not at the top, somewhere in the middle. There we go. Like it's fine for what it is, but it loading up when you're trying to access the admin console really pisses me off. GCP. What if you wanted AWS, but God said no? And that's what happened to the Google engineers that wanted AWS, but Google didn't want them to use a competitor's products. So they kept bolting on crap on top of other crap. And there you go, you get GCP. Wow. Um, it doesn't feel cohesive. It seems like a pain in the ass to manage. It annoys me whenever I have to interact with GCP, and I do not like it. Um, is it literally evil? I hate you. I don't think it's that bad, but I definitely think it's F for fail. I am very much not a fan of GCP. All right, GitHub, GitHub. Another Microsoft product. Wow, I love Microsoft. Microsoft is my favorite. They are my vendor of choice. But uh GitHub is literally fine. Um their GitHub actions and GitHub pages and CI and stuff. I don't mind it. I personally pay for GitHub Pro for my personal project work. Uh I like having that option. Should I host my own Forjo or Codebug instead? Probably, but until such a time that I actually migrate the one thing that I have deploying off of GitHub Actions to maybe like a Cloudflare worker, I'm gonna keep using GitHub. It's fine. I like it. As an enterprise piece of software, though, for enterprise, I feel, I feel like GitLab is better in that you can just host it yourself, secure it in your own way. Don't you only have to pay for the support, whereas GitHub is more of a SaaS thing. Eh, that feels like a B tier. That feels like a B tier. Is it better than DevOps? Is the question. No. DevOps just does more. And I think that's what the intention is, right? GitHub is more of a uh it's not the enterprise offering per se. Yeah, I don't know. I like GitHub as uh an individual user. Yay. GitLab. GitLab is what if GitHub, but it was open source. And it does that. It's yeah, it is that. Um I've considered self-hosting GitLab. If I was going to self-host a version control system thingy for to have like a Git repo that is not on GitHub, I probably wouldn't self-host GitLab at this point. I'd probably go, as I mentioned, Forge or Codebug. But where does GitLab fit in? GitLab is so some of the features seem a bit annoying to use compared to DevOps or GitHub, but generally speaking, it's literally fine. And the fact that it's open source means that I will put it there. I wouldn't put it in A, but I will put it above GitHub. Gray noise. Okay. Gray noise is a another threat intel provider. They do some free like IP based threat intel. I think they do file hash based. I've only ever used it for IP intel, and for that, they're pretty solid. Much like Abuse IPDB, they get you the who is information for an IP. They get you some extra enriched data. It's always fun to have your data enriched. Like enriched uranium. Who doesn't love enriched uranium? Um, yeah, I genuinely do not have any complaints about gray noise. I wish I played with the API more. I want to play with the API more. It's probably quite useful, but until I do that, I'll put them in A above Abuse IPDB because they are better in that it's like an actual like threat intel product rather than a crowdsourced thing. Cool. Have I been pwned? So, why is this in an enterprise list? Isn't that the funky site where you check if your email has been compromised? Well, dear listener, um, yes, but also they have an API that you can integrate with if you are an enterprise customer, and it's really useful. It is very nice. And the dude like Troy Hunt, he is a nice guy. He is very willing to help, and he provides a very useful service for, you know, credential breaches and validating against that as an enterprise to prevent people setting their password to the same thing as the personal account that got breached 5 billion times in Adobe and 4chan and Reddit and whatever random website. Um, Fun fact, I am only one step removed because I know someone that talked with Troy Holmes. That's pretty cool. Um, and because of that, I there's nothing wrong with Have I Been Pwned. It's a very useful product. It's a very useful API platform. Whatever, the guy behind it is really nice. His blog posts are very insightful a lot of the time. First S tier, easy decision. Okay, Jam. What if you wanted SCCM, but you had SCCM at home because you have Macs and you don't you need to manage the Macs. Um, yeah, it's kind of SCCM for Macs, but not really. Well, I'll call it SCCM for Macs because that's funnier. So Jamf is pretty okay. You can push scripts out. I like that. Who doesn't love pushing scripts out? Uh, it lets you lock down a machine if Jamf can see it. and market installer and everything. Useful tool. Um, Ideally, you could just, not have to post stuff elsewhere. You could just do it all yourself, but Jamf it up. Yeah, I don't have strong dislike of Jamf, but I don't have strong like of it either. So B tier. Jira. Now the exclamation marks on Jira might betray my opinion on this particular product. I like Jira. It is a nice product. It does what it needs to do. It really does. It does the needful and reverts and does not complain. So who doesn't love Jira? Helps you stay organized. It integrates with other things nicely enough. You can have subtasks, which I really like. Very useful for particular things where you have a project that might need that. Um, it lets you do your Kanban nice and easily, and it integrates with Confluence. Like it has the knowledge bases and all that. So this might be leading to a particular conclusion, and yes, it is. That's two in a row. What can I say? I oh Jam. Almost in a row. Okay. Joe Sandbox. So Joe Sandbox is another sandbox like any run. It's literally fine. It does provide a lot of different systems like any run. It allows the live interaction feature, which you can just keep adding time onto, which is great. Um, it does what it says on the tin. It lets you sandbox malware and do analysis on it. And a lot of the time you will end up with a report that just says, oh, this malware tries to do obfuscation and anti-analysis things, and then you go, alright, that explains all that I need to know. Um, is it better than Anyron? No. They're in my eyes, they are equivalent. I don't have beef with either of them, but I don't think that they're exceptional either. I think Joe Sandbox has the funnier name. But things that I do have a beef with are suspicious third-party antivirus tools, such as Kaspersky. Ooh. Anyone that thought that letting a Russian company onto their infrastructure in any capacity was a good idea needs to, like, I don't know, get their head checked, maybe. um this may be because I am from a country that was uh I guess under Russian influence for some period of time and did not have a fun time of it. I do not trust this piece of software because of its country of origin. And I don't think anyone in a Western country that is uh, aligned with freedom and democracy and peace in the world should be using Kaspersky. Um, so there we go. The first literally evil I hate you goes to Kaspersky. Now, I will say, in pure performance, in terms of the detections, they do come up pretty alright. They do seem to be okay. But, that's You don't just pick something that has such intimate access to your computer because it performs well. You have to have trust for it. And in terms of trust, we're going to talk about Microsoft now. Microsoft, yay. So, I don't dislike Windows 11. Let's get that done right off the bat. I'm not against Windows 11. I am against all of the Copilot everywhere. Why does Notepad have Copilot now? Literally, who asked? I didn't ask. I don't know anyone that did ask for Copilot to be integrated into Notepad. It's also integrated into Paint, and you have to pay to use some of the features, because of course you do. Now, why anyone would open MS Paint and want to use Copilot is anyone's guess. But I personally do not open Paint with the intention of generating some fantastic art. I open Paint because I want to paste something and I want to draw on it and I want to make a really shitty drawing or edit of something. That's why I've opened Paint, not to use Copilot. Um, Another thing that annoys me in that same general field is the fact that Microsoft doesn't release the GPOs or the updates to GPOs to enable you to disable all this crap in a timely manner at all times, which they should. Why is an enterprise deployment getting forced into random crap within the Edge browser when Microsoft clearly knows that a lot of enterprises are going to turn it off because of security concerns? So Microsoft, like, why are you like this? I do not appreciate that. Um, in terms of other things that they do so many things that are just shareholder driven rather than, security best practice that it annoys the crap out of me. They deprecated Application Guard. Why? Literally why? It's just they build this virtualization based security stuff and then they barely use it properly. They use it for a few things, but they don't really stretch their legs in enabling all these features that they could enable. They could literally do something like cubes, right? They literally could do something like cubes if they wanted to and bring that level of security and isolation between software to the mainstream, right? Well, mainstream desktop, because mobile OSs kind of do somewhat do that kind of stuff in process isolation and sandboxing. Uh, well, not kind of, but you know what I mean. And so I just Microsoft, you could do so much more. You could have done so much more with what you built already, but you gotta chase the AI. Just gotta chase the money. And it's frustrating. In terms of licensing, um, I don't like that how do I put this? They make it really annoying to get Windows Server if you are not an enterprise or small medium business owner, or not owner if you're an enterprise, but like if you're not an SMB or enterprise, they're kind of like, oh well, we blah blah blah. And it's like, what if I want like a 6 server 22 data center licenses? What then? Right? Maybe I need them for something. And so that it just annoys me. And in terms of like dealing with their support, like I like learn.microsoft, but I don't like basically anything else. Um, this is pretty funny for me to be like dunking on Microsoft so hard when I literally am in the middle of deploying ADV3 to my home lab and have a home Active Directory domain and all that. But Microsoft needs to be called out sometimes. Um, yeah. All right, Notion. Notion is a collaborative platform, document platform. It's like if Confluence wasn't Confluence and was instead more like Google Docs. I mean, it's fine. I'm not the biggest hater of Notion. I actually saw an ad for Notion uh a couple weeks back in real life, which is pretty huge. I didn't realize Notion was trying to expand that hard. I feel like I don't know why they're here though. They do have the ability to be used in enterprise setting. They do have the user role management. There are the groupings and stuff. It is the collaboration suite product, but they also chase after consumers. So I guess it's kind of like G Suite in a regard. Um, yeah. Uh, it's like G Suite but a little better. Fair enough. Let's put it in C. Let's put it slightly above G Suite. All right. NPM. NPM is a walking security hole, and I am not a fan. Yes, you need your packages for Node.js, you need your blah blah blah, but it is a walking security hole, and particularly with LLMs. There was an article I saw very recently that dealt with LLMs typoing or hallucinating packages. Uh, Hallucinating is not the right term per se because it's not alive. But anyway, and attackers were essentially typo squatting, but like LLM typo squatting, which why npm, why um it's annoying to manage. The command line annoys me. Uh, I am not a fan of npm in the slightest, and it is a walking security hole. Um, Speaking of things I'm not a fan of, NVIDIA, or as I like to call them, no video. Um, no video are, I guess, the big. They are the vendor for graphics cards that are used for AI, which like that's fine. They they can be a big vendor. They can make the graphics cards. Um, they're just so scummy. They price consumer cards so highly and barely make any because they know that the real bread and butter is their data center offerings. And honestly, in terms of consumer cards, they've kind of stagnated. AMD kind of needs to invest in that field to take up the market that Nvidia is kind of leaving open. But in terms of data center, they kind of have it on lock, honestly. They have their big uh whatever they're called, the big AI pod things, and they just give you an in a box solution to not be caught out by the latest bubble. Um and they are literally evil, and I hate them, and I am not a fan. But that's okay because I do not make procurement decisions. um Okta. Okta is I feel like a lot of people will have opinions on Okta purely because they work somewhere or attend school somewhere that forces them to use Okta Verify. Now, Okta Verify is literally fine. Um, yeah, I said it. Okta Verify is fine. In terms of the backend, in terms of being an IDP, um, they have stuff like workflows, but if your environment is sufficiently complex enough, you need something bespoke anyway. So like Okta workflows exist but aren't that useful. Um, gotta stay hydrated. Perfect. All right, and talk for another 3 hours now. Um, Okta, I don't have any quarrels with. They have had some security holes in the past, mostly from uh, their own internal security culture for their own company. Are they like evil? No. Are they hot shit? No. Uh, put them in C tier. I mean, the fact that Okta Verify does have the option for and the MFA confirmation that can't be like fatigued out of someone is pretty nice, but everything should just be like passkeys, man. All right, OneTrust. OneTrust is the darling of anyone in governance, risk, compliance type stuff. Um, it also gets used for a lot of things that maybe it shouldn't be used for, and the search when you're searching for things within OneTrust is very finicky, and it annoys me to no end how finicky it is. Um, it also kind of railroads you into doing things a particular way, and it kind of gives you, shall I say, the hammer that makes everything look like a nail. Um, as a vendor, they sound fine. Um, but their product is like it. There are annoyances that annoy me in particular, which is why they are going to bottom of C tier. There we go. All right, Palo Alto. We've got their firewalls. We've got their not firewalls. Let's deal with their not firewalls first. The XDR, the XOR, XIM, etc. So Palo wants you to buy everything Palo, which I mean, any vendor that has a wide range of products will want you to be, you know, buying all of their products, not just one of their products. But in terms of what I've seen of XOR, of XIM, of XDR, it's like I don't know, not a big fan. Uh, it looks like they have like an idea of how stuff should be built and how stuff should be automated, and like it's fine per se, but it's not amazing. And they are very guilty of the same thing that CrowdStrike is, where it's like, oh, that'll cost you extra in your licensing, um, which like, yeah, DTO. As for their firewalls, I do quite like Panorama. It has some quirks, but it's the same thing that the other parts of the company have that I mentioned, which is you've got the nickel and diming, where you have to really just buy lots of different individual licenses, and the firewalls are really expensive. I don't know if, well, if someone's watching this, they probably would know this, but the licensing cost for PanOS, even if you get the hardware used, is based on the price that they sell it for. So per year, you'd be paying a ton of money just to use the firewalls. Now imagine you're a corporate customer, imagine you're an enterprise customer. It's a massive amount. But in terms of what are they, what they do, the firewalls are better than the other product that they make. Which I would hope. That is, I guess, Palo's like bread and butter, right? Palo Alto Networks. They got the firewalls. They got the Global Protect VPN. Like, you would hope that they do it right. All right. Power BI. Another Microsoft product. For some quick data processing that you don't want to push through a proper database or use Python scripting to attack. It's fine. Power BI is like literally fine. It's better than Microsoft. Microsoft. Yes. Yeah, I do like the power stuff in Excel. Pretty useful. I could again, I could pull out Python and do the same thing. But the power stuff, Power BI type stuff is nice. There we go. C tier. Uh, below the Palos stuff, I would say. Qualys. So there are two vulnerability management thingamabobs in here. Got Qualys, we got Tenable. Qualys and Tenable fundamentally do the same thing. The one difference is that Qualys has their true risk stuff. They've got their own vulnerability database, which is it's they're all just pulled from the MITRE CVEs as enriched via the NVD. Like, they're not fooling anyone. You can tag your stuff to make true risk work with your environment, because this is just a thing that people keep searching for. They're searching for a solution to vulnerability management without putting in the time and effort to actually investigate and properly remediate specific vulnerabilities as they work, as they affect their own environment. And Qualys is like, hey man, why don't you outsource that to us? But also, technically, it's not really outsourced to us because you still have to tag your assets in an appropriate way. So it's like, why not just have a proper like VM team, then just rely on true risk? So fundamentally, it is a C tier product, and I can't say more than that without issues. Smart IT, or BMC Remedy Smart IT. Piece of shit. Not a fan. Slow and clunky. The SAML is half functional, and I have not heard good things from other people that use it. I'm not a fan of Smart IT. Not many people are fans of Smart IT. Put it in the bin where it belongs, and Bob's your uncle. There it goes. In the right tier for such a wonderful product. Only the best products go in the literally evil I hate you tier. Run Zero. Conversely, I quite like Run Zero. Who doesn't love an asset discovery and attack surface detection tool? It's pretty lit. It is nice to have a central repository of your assets and what you've detected. It lets you search for things and filter things, and the vendor, their like engineering team is nice, and they seem pretty like head screwed on and very willing to improve their product that's already pretty solid. So S tier. Like, it has issues, but I'm a fan. Right. Now, Salesforce. Based on the fact that it's literally captioned as Satan, which I'm not sure is super visible on the stream, but in any case. Let's just cut to the chase. It goes in this tier. But why does it go in this tier? Why does Salesforce go in literally evil I hate you tier? So Salesforce is the spawn of Satan, and it enables people to develop security holes in their own website. And it may have aura, but I do not grant it the rank of Rizzler. Because it's just there are so many idiosyncrasies of how Salesforce works. There are annoying things that Salesforce does. Like, wow, you have a CRM. Okay, I have a CRM. It's called Don't Fucking Use Salesforce. Um, and I know it's very entrenched. A lot of companies use it. But I would just like to point to the AI ad that Salesforce produced that starred uh Tom Hardy and that other dude. I don't remember who the other dude was. I'm not a movie fan. But in any case, it was the weirdest ad and like, oh, Salesforce fixes this problem that doesn't exist by using AI, which is like, what? And further to that, it was a problem that would not be under the purview of Salesforce anyway. So yeah, it's literally Satan spawn, and I'm the opposite of a fan. If there are 100 Salesforce haters in the world, I am one of them. If there are 10 Salesforce haters in the world, I am one of them. If there is one Salesforce hater in the world, I am them. And if there are none, then I am no longer here because I do not like the Salesforce. Cool. Slack. Slack is fine. It's like if Discord was like better. Um, yeah. It's clearly corporate oriented. It's not so much a gamer chat program that got shoehorned into being a ton of different things to a ton of different people. It's more focused in that regard. It lets you do custom emotes. Who doesn't love custom emotes? Um, it is still an Electron shit app, much like Discord, but at the very least, it mostly works fine, and it does not have a memory leak, unlike Discord. Is it exceptionally good? No. Is it exceptionally bad? Also no. So that may come as no surprise. Well, okay, maybe let's put it up above there. There we go. That's about where it belongs, in my opinion, because this is, in fact, my opinion. All right, we are on the home stretch now. So, Splunk. Splunk is. I have thoughts on Splunk. So, in terms of what it can do, it can work as a monitoring tool. It can work as a SIEM if you know use Splunk ES. It does that fine. There's some automation stuff that they really want people to use. The Splunk SOAR, because it's a SOAR. Um, like yeah, that's very epic and cool. Thank you, Splunk. If you don't want to use Splunk SOAR, then screw you, I guess. Um, it's a very expensive tool though, because they charge you a lot for data ingest. This is common knowledge. Everyone knows this. It is a pain in the ass. That's why stuff like Cribble exists, to pre-filter your logs before you send them to Splunk. Because the theory goes, you don't need to keep everything in Splunk. You need to keep your most important things in Splunk. And so it's cheaper to use something like a Cribble than to directly ingest everything into Splunk just in case. So that's a sad state of affairs, that there is literally a third-party ecosystem for pre-filtering stuff before you send it to Splunk, based on how expensive Splunk is. So that's fun. In terms of the product, I mean, I am a certified something or other of Splunk, and that was one of the easiest exams I have ever done for anything. Um, I don't think I can share more than that because I did technically sign the agreement that I wouldn't, but I can say that it was very goddamn easy, which is something that anyone that has done Splunk certifications would know. Um, don't tell anyone else though, because we want to keep that secret. We want to make it seem that having a Splunk cert is actually a big deal when it's not. It's really not. Anyway, uh, I don't think that it's that bad a platform, but their monetization and the way that they push people and create this third party ecosystem of what if you don't want to ingest everything into Splunk? Puts it solidly in the C tier. It's not bad, but it's not great for that very reason. Now, what is this other piece of software that is also Satan? It's Tailscale. Why the fuck does Tailscale exist? If you need a VPN network, VPN based network, because otherwise it's ATM machine. Wonderful. So Tailscale is like a mesh type of VPN. Um, I would say if that's a product that you need, you failed already because what the hell? Just set up your networking gear appropriately, my dude. The other thing is the traffic passes through Tailscale servers in some shape or form. So that's fun. The final reason, and the reason why it has been labeled also Satan, is that if you do any kind of threat hunting, I have heard that a lot of people are fans of using Tailscale to circumvent network restrictions. Why they do that? Uh, we all know why they do that. So yeah, Tailscale is also Satan, and literally evil. I hate you, tier worthy. Teams. Teams is separate to the rest of Microsoft because it's uniquely bad. Uh, I have the noise ingrained into my ears. The doot, whatever the fuck. I don't even know how to make the noise. But point is, I do not like Teams. The Australian government and well, the APS and Victorian Public Service too. They love the Microsoft suite, so they use Teams. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of Teams. Apparently, it has some of the features that Slack does now. Um, I have not used it since a previous job, so screw you, Teams. You are uniquely evil compared to Microsoft. All right, Tenable. Tenable has a fun amount of false positives. Now, why do they have false positives? Well, if you happen to have an old piece of software just sitting on your computer and not as the currently installed piece of software, it will throw up an alert or it will throw up a detection, even via the Nessus scanner or the Nessus agent, right? That you have a vulnerability when you do not have a vulnerability actually. Um, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of the fact that it does that. So Tenable Tenable is ugh, worse than Qualys, but not dramatically worse. So there we go. C tier. Terraform. Terraform I like conceptually. I like infrastructure as code. I like the DevOps. I want to learn more Terraform, but in the time that I have done battle with a pre-existing Terraform based solution, oh boy. It is a very unwieldy monster. And I do not like YAML. I am not a YAML fan. I am a YAML hater, actually. You can tell by all of the commits where I have pushed something It has not worked, and I've had to push it again with minor tweaks because YAML. So that's Terraform. Um, the sad part about Terraform is that HashiCorp, now IBM, uh, they are doing bad things, and there's an open source fork. Um, I don't remember what it's called. I'm sure someone will know what the open source version of Terraform, the forked version of Terraform is. Um, yeah, it's good for DevOps stuff, but it's an unwieldy beast, and maybe after I do some training, B tier. It feels like it's not quite average. It's a little bit above. It's a little bit above. All right, VMware. So VMware as a platform with the vSphere and vCenter and everything and ESX. I mean, it's a good ecosystem, but the problem, unfortunately, is that at the end of the day, it is VMware owned by Broadcom. It is not VMware owned by itself or VMware owned by a suitable custodian. No, it is owned by the extractive and annoying owner of Broadcom. That, yes, they made VMware Workstation Pro or Fusion or whatever the hell it's called. They made it free for personal use. Has anyone actually tried to grab that? Because it is a massive pain. I am not a fan. And the costs have driven a lot of different companies to, if not move, at the very least explore other virtualization platforms. But the problem is, no one else quite has the entire suite of software and integrations and everything that VMware has. So, as much as it pains me to say it, it's in the literally evil I hate you tier. But that's mostly because of Broadcom. Alright, Trello. I don't remember when Atlassian bought Trello. I assume they already had Jira when they bought Trello. I don't know how that uh, purchase could have happened when they're literally purchasing one of their competitors. But in any case, Trello is like boneless Jira. I do not like Trello. I am not a fan, and I have had to use it, and I wish I was using Jira instead. F for fail. Alright, VirusTotal. VirusTotal is pretty alright, but it's kind of how do I put this? The fact that it's crowdsourced to an extent kind of like annoys and frustrates me because people can just upvote and downvote a particular thing without giving a reason. I wish that if they're gonna do the crowdsource thing, they would force people to leave a comment if they're gonna upvote or downvote, explaining why they upvoted or downvoted a particular hash that has come up. But anyway, they have graphs. Graphs are pretty nice, pretty useful. It enables you to get a sense of scope of what something is, what it's connected to. It lets you find the hashes for those weird files that you see popping up in your EDR detections. Who doesn't love VirusTotal? Very solid A tier. It's not S tier, but it's pretty high up. Now, Cisco got off pretty easy with Cisco themselves ending up in C, as well as Splunk also ending up in C. However, WebEx is an abomination that should not exist, and everyone should move to. I would rather use Teams over WebEx. That's how bad WebEx is. It is a clunky platform. It barely works properly half the time, and I hate it. Literally, literally evil. Okay, almost at the end now. Workplace. Who doesn't love Workplace? Not me. I do not love Workplace. Workplace is literally work Facebook. Uh, Internal work Facebook. So I guess LinkedIn is professional Facebook. So, Workplace is actually getting sunset this year, I believe. I'm not sure who even exists in the market outside of Workplace. I know a lot of places use Workplace if they need such a thing. Some places even go one step further and have work communication via Workplace for some reason. I am very sorry to those places because you're screwed this year. You have to move. Um, I don't think you can use Messenger for business. I don't think that's the equivalent product. I don't know if Facebook even will have a replacement equivalent product. I don't think so. So Workplace is a fail. Also, I don't like Facebook. Meta, the company, whatever. I don't like them. Alright, IBM X Force. So IBM X Force is another threat intel type thing. They're pretty solid. They give you the context on why something has come up. They are fine. No quarrels with them. Uh, very top of B tier. Why not? Yubico. Now, I have talked to the Yubico guys. Uh, a couple of the Oceania guys. There are some design choices that I disagree with, and they do have a justification that isn't just fuck you, pay us. But that said, YubiKeys are pretty expensive for what they are, and they have a fun little quirk where if your CA has keys that are SHA-512 and or RSA 2048 bit with SHA-512, they will not fit in the smart card storage on a YubiKey for whatever reason. How much it would have cost them to just include a little bit extra flash, I don't know. But that does annoy me. That said, they are very plug and play. They are pretty useful. The vendor is receptive to answering questions and explaining why they do particular things in a particular way. Yeah, I am a fan. I am not fully like, going to say that they're perfect, but I will put them higher up than other people might put Yubico. All right, last one, Zoom. So there is a fun quirk of Zoom where sometimes it gives you a password and it's a whole ass like uh some sort of string, like a base 64 string, rather than just giving you a meeting passcode. I don't know why it does that. It is very annoying. And when you're trying to share a link to someone to join your Zoom, and you're, say, trying to join from a meeting room AV, it's a pain in the ass. However, it is not Teams. It is not WebEx. It is something that works most of the time. And I can't rag too hard on Zoom. Apart from, I guess, the end-to-end encryption that they did not do in the best way. And the way that they now have rolled out like true end-to-end encryption is a bit silly in my opinion. And I did read part of the white paper, but I have better things to do than look at why Zoom is the way that it is. It is very much a C tier product. Yeah. Did I know where all of these were going to be before I made this tier list? No. I thought I was going to rank Octa higher, to be quite honest. That's the main one. But thinking about it, it makes sense. It's not exceptional, and it does have its quirks, does have its issues. So I think C tier is very justified for that one. In terms of the spread, I am absolutely unsurprised by the spread. That's like what? 3, 6, 9, 12, A and above. Or okay, let's look at C and above versus C and below. So above C is 3, 6, 9, 11 plus 3, 6, 9, 12, 23 above C tier compared to 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 17 below C tier. But then we do have a big chunk in C tier. Yeah, I think that makes sense as a tier list, and I would justify my opinions once more if so desired. But I think yeah, Stan Troy Hunt and Run Zero and Jiro. It might be a case of, oh, I've not used a proper Kanban solution before until Jira, but I quite like Jira, okay? I like it enough for it to be an S tier because of how useful it is. So don't at me. Or do. I appreciate the engagement. But given that it is past midnight here, and this is probably one of my longest streams not in a while. This is my second stream after a 2-year hiatus from actually streaming. Um, yeah, that was a stream. I will post my tier list on Blue Sky in a little bit. But thanks to everyone that has watched this hour and a half ramble. I hope that it was at least somewhat interesting. Cool. I will see you in a future stream.